10 most deadly Spider-Man villains. Number 10. The Vulture, Jimmy Natal. Jimmy Natal is a one-time mob enforcer that was mutated into a crime-eating vigilante known as the Vulture. Unlike Adrian Toomes, probably the most famous of the Vultures, Natal doesn't need a suit to fly since he's mutated wings, a beak, and can spit acid, and apparently he has a taste for evildoers, with no remorse for killing. While he certainly isn't in the villain biz for wealth or power, he qualifies as a villain, unlike, say, the Punisher, because he isn't killing criminals and mobsters out of some higher moral standard. Jimmy Natal was introduced as the new Vulture in The Amazing Spider-Man number 593, June 2009. Number 9. The Hobgoblin, Roderick Kingsley. Kingsley becomes the Hobgoblin to further his own gains in the corporate world, strictly for financial power. However, one of Kingsley's first acts, before actually becoming the Hobgoblin, is killing the man who tells him where the Green Goblin's lair is. After becoming a costumed villain, he manipulates a small-time thug to fight Spider-Man, and then kills the thug after his defeat by the web slinger to prevent the thug from giving away the Hobgoblin's true identity. In the end, there was little more than the 2 killings to prevent his identity from getting out, not even a true homicidal maniac. Roderick Kingsley was first seen as the Hobgoblin in Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, number 43, June 1980. Number 8. The Lizard, Dr. Curt Connors. While the Lizard may want to transform all of New York City into carbon copies of his lizardness, Dr. Curt Connors was never that intentionally homicidal. However, in one incident, the Lizard was circumstantially forced to kill Calypso, who tried to use his voodoo to control the monstrous lizard, and she definitely got her comeuppance. On the other hand, pun intended, the Lizard at one point sheds its humanity by eating his son. Talk about father-son issues. Curt Connors was first introduced as the Lizard in The Amazing Spider-Man number 6, November 1963. Number 7. The Spider Slayer, Alistair Smythe. While Spencer Smythe was initially hired by J. Jonah Jameson to kill Spider-Man, his use of radiation in creating the Spider Slayer robots causes his own death. So when son Alistair takes on the project, he's not only after Spidey, but Jameson as well. And it's his thirst for vengeance and his application of an exoskeleton transforming him into the Spider Slayer, which turns him homicidal. In a bid to kill and hurt Jameson, he kills Jameson's wife, Marla. Alistair Smythe first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man Annual, number 19, November 1985. Number 6. Dr. Octopus, Otto Octavius. While one of Spider-Man's most famous villains, Doc Ock has never been one of the more homicidal. He always fancied himself a man of science, similar to both Parker and Norman Osborn in the IQ department. That said, he was responsible for a number of his clones' deaths in the Clone Saga, and in a battle with Spider-Man, he accidentally kills Gwen Stacy's father, Captain George Stacy. Not necessarily the most homicidal, but not without blood on his hands. Doc Ock has one major desire throughout his villainous career. He wants to be the one to kill Spider-Man. The Good Doctor first appeared in July 1963 in Amazing Spider-Man number 3. Number 5. Carrion, Malcolm McBride, Dr. William Allen. Carrion started out as a zombie-like clone of the Jackal with a deadly virus. With a death-inducing touch, he has gone on a killing spree a number of times, most notably in Maximum Carnage, where he had been inducted into the Carnage family. The interesting thing about Carrion is not that he's literally death incarnate, which is why he's as high on the list as he is, but that he's not a homicidal maniac, for the most part. McBride was a graduate student and Allen was a S.H.I.E.L.D. doctor. Like Jimmy Natal, neither was really in the villain business for power or wealth, they just wanted revenge on Spider-Man. Malcolm McBride as Carrion first appeared in April 1989's Spectacular Spider-Man number 149, while Dr. William Allen's first appearance as Carrion was in April 1997's Spider-Man Dead Man's Hand number 1. Number 4. Venom, Mac Gargan, Eddie Brock, and Carnage, Cletus Cassidy. Most people know of the time that Spidey went from the good old red and blue to black and white after a war in space. Following the realization that this new suit was actually a parasitic symbiote, Parker gave up the suit, which bonded with the first Venom, Eddie Brock. There were a few times that Brock and the Venom symbiotes were deadly, but it was when the criminal, formerly known as the Scorpion, Mac Gargan, bonds with the Venom symbiote that Venom becomes truly fatal. So what happens when you mix Venom's child with a serial killer? Answer: one seriously demented and powerful creature that has a taste for destruction and flesh in spades. Alongside Carrion, Carnage is likely the most fatal of the web-slinger's foes, especially in the Maximum Carnage storyline, which was likely one of the most lethal criminal sprees in the Marvelverse. Eddie Brock first appeared as Venom in April 1988's Amazing Spider-Man number 299, while Mac took over the symbiote reins in March 2005's Marvel Knights Spider-Man number 10. As for Cletus Cassidy, he made his first appearance as Carnage in February 1991's Amazing Spider-Man number 344. Number 3. Morlan. Now we are getting into the villains who are truly impacting Spider-Man. Morlan is technically the only villain to ever truly have killed Spider-Man, Peter Parker, in the main continuity. Spider-Man realized that Morlan is an ancient, a vampire-like being who feasts on totemic power sources to stay alive, and that his food sources need to be pure animal totems. But Spidey realizes that he is not actually a pure totem of the spider, since the spider that bit him was radioactive, so he doses himself with radiation to have a chance against Morlan in a fight. The webhead seemingly kills him, only to have Morlan come back to taunt him again on Parker's deathbed, which in itself is inexplicable by science. When Spidey sees that Morlan is about to kill Mary Jane, he leaps out of the hospital bed, sprouting new fangs and stingers that he uses to kill Morlan. At this point, Peter apparently dies, only to have a newer and stronger Peter emerge out of the dead husk. Morlan would appear higher in the list, but the last two are doozies for sure. Morlan announced his presence in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, number 30, June 2001. Number 2. Green Goblin, Norman Osborn. Okay, so the Green Goblin is by far Spider-Man's main arch-nemesis. Hands down, this insane billionaire has it out for Spider-Man and will stop at nothing to make him pay with his life. While Goblin fought with his glider, bombs, and ferocity, Osborn has fought Spider-Man with cunning, guile, and deceit throughout their torturous rivalry. And the Green Goblin has had some of the longest-lasting effects on Spider-Man, killing his first love, Gwen Stacy, and in the Ultimate Universe, actually killing Peter Parker. While Morlan killed Peter Parker, he lived on in a newer, better form, yet in the Ultimate Universe, that is not the case. A new teenager, Miles Morales, takes over the web-slinger's mantle. And killing your first love might spurn anyone to have a hate-hate relationship with a villain. In Earth 616, Norman Osborn first appeared as Green Goblin in July 1964's Amazing Spider-Man number 14. In the Ultimate Universe, he was the first villain to go after Spider-Man in October 2000's Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. Yes, there is only one more person. Number 1. The Burglar, Dennis Carradine. Arguably, the Green Goblin should be numero uno. However, what it really comes down to in this list, rather than sheer number of killings, is that Dennis Carradine killed Peter's uncle, Ben. It has never been determined if Carradine was anything more than a burglar, and it was implied that the death of Ben Parker was an accident in Amazing Fantasy number 15, 1962. Though he is a thief and not a murderer, Carradine's fatal act of violence pushes Spider-Man to never let another crime remain unanswered if he has any choice at all. Because of this effect on Peter Parker, Dennis Carradine, a one-time-only fatal villain, tops the list. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button in the top right. Our channel has loads of other awesome videos just like this.